Hey everybody, Jay Whitner here with Kickstarter Coaching, bringing you our internet TV show crowdfunding coverage. We discuss what's going on in the crowdfunding space once a month, and we try to keep our show to 15 minutes or less. So let's get right to it. A lot of activity in July. News on both the major fundraising platforms, Kickstarter and Indiegogo. 18 big campaigns, 400 grand or more, were funded in July. Collectively, they brought in over $24 million, which I think is a record for our show for the way we track that particular statistic. The biggest campaign of the month was Reading Rainbow, brought in over $5 million. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we cover 8 of the big campaigns and some of the things that helped them succeed. First, the news. We open with the Wall Street Journal. Crowdfunding isn't just for the little guys. What this article is about is big companies using crowdfunding platforms as market research to see what kind of people were supporting the campaigns, how many of them, how much they put in, what they were willing to pay, that kind of thing. Very valuable information that helps them with their projects, and instead of spending money on market research, maybe they can make a little money on their market research. Next, we had some comments about the pathway for capital formation, with crowdfunding being sort of the entry level, moving into the venture capital realm, and these comments were compliments to the Indiegogo CEO. More evidence of big names. Hard Rock Cafe wrapped up a $1.5 million crowdfunding campaign. One of their locations, they sold a fractional equity in their location at $10,000 units. So more evidence of growth just everywhere you look. TechCrowd had a piece that talked about incubation. Basically, it's similar to a prior story that crowdfunding is like phase 1 and it leads to bigger capital. In this article, they list 5 recent crowdfunding campaigns that after their campaign was concluded, that they were rewarded with $10 million or more each in the venture capital community. So they were really vetted out through the crowdfunding process. In terms of equity crowdfunding, which we've all been waiting for in a semi-patient basis, I guess. Again, the Indiegogo CEO, he's saying that equity crowdfunding is really going to change the world. And the leadership of Indiegogo, the founders, have been looking toward equity crowdfunding since before they opened Indiegogo. So it's been a long road, but hopefully we're almost there. Another piece of Indiegogo news is they really are pursuing mobile very hard. They hired on a high-profile guy as a vice presidential position to lead the charge into the mobile space. They did some testing in Canada over a roughly 30-day period, and they had their real launch at the end of July. And they're going to be going after mobile really, really hard. So one of the big campaigns of the month, that seems to be one of the interesting things that everybody likes to hear about. We'll talk about 8 campaigns really quickly. They ranged in price they ranged in revenues from like $500,000 to $5 million. The video length, which is a key metric, I think, ranged from just over 2 minutes to almost 10 minutes. We recommend 2 to 3 minutes as being an ideal time frame for your video, for your campaigns. And the updates, everybody did a reasonable amount of updates. One of them had 53 updates, which seems like quite a lot to me, but obviously it worked for them. The campaign length, typical wisdom, is 30 days more or less. Seems to be the sweet spot. There were campaigns ranging from 27 days up to 60 days. The reward levels, it's a common thing. People get carried away. They want to offer all these kind of rewards. And it seems good when you're doing the campaign, but when you try to fulfill the rewards, it can be a little bit more challenging. There was a campaign that had a modest 4 rewards up to 64 rewards, which I don't recommend. The average creator of the group had backed 6 campaigns prior to launching their own campaign. So what were the campaigns that were really dominant in July? First one was Pocket Scan. They brought in just over $500,000. This was a gadget you wave over a piece of paper, like you rub it on the paper and it scans whatever's there, text, images, whatever. Cool product for a lot of different ways. They had 3 stretch goals that they made in their campaign. They had pictures of the rewards. This is something that we're seeing more of, and it's a little harder because you've got to actually have your rewards all prepared like ahead of time to do that. Another thing they did that I'm seeing now and then, and I'm not sure really what I think of it, but no shipping was included in their prices. So if you're accustomed to the crowdfunding space, you sort of assume U.S. shipping is included. That's not how they did it, so everything seemed to be a little bit less expensive than it really was. Next campaign is GoKey. Brought in just over $1 million. This is a gadget you put on your keychain. It provides emergency power for your phone. It has like a thumb drive built into it for storage and does a lot of cool things. Some of the things that they did on their campaign that people seem interested in is they had a chart of where the money goes. So people that are backers or potential backers are interested in, what are you going to do with all the money? So they show that in a graphical layout. They also had an influencer discount program. The way these things usually work is if you refer the campaign out to people that join or pledge, you get rewarded for that by price breaks on what you're doing. The last thing that I thought was really interesting was third-party validation. That they had examples of people saying their product was good and why it was good, that were sort of independent feedback on that. And I think people go for that. I think that's very compelling. The next campaign was AirDog. This was a drone, which we see a lot of drones in crowdfunding. This particular drone was for sports people who wanted to film their sports activities. So you have this big wristwatch thing that the drone tracks. So whatever you do, you run, you bike, you're on a boat or something, the drone follows you around and takes pictures, takes video of whatever you're doing. So this was a cool looking campaign. The video was really exciting looking with lots of motion. They had early bird discounts, which are becoming just very, very common now. Supplemental video, which I guess makes sense. It's a video product that they're using the drone to create. So they have lots of video in their campaign. And they had post-campaign order buttons, which make a lot of sense. The campaign's closed, but somebody is down there looking at the campaign. And there's a link basically to their website or other fulfillment areas that you can buy their material after the campaign is over. And in this case, they had more than one button scattered in their page that would enable people to do that. Next, we had this HD 360-degree camera. It was really cool. It took really exciting pictures. And at one part of their campaign page, it was a place you could click and download a picture. You could see the 3D picture and the quality. Very, very nice. Brought in almost $1.5 million. Some of the interesting things they did in their campaign is they had the team bios, which people like to see who's behind the campaign. They had multiple level early bird pricing. First, there wasn't early bird pricing, and there was. Now, these people have 3 different tiers of early bird pricing, when you came into the campaign. But really, where they got into the real sales thing is post-campaign. The little a button, the campaign's closed, click here if you want to buy our thing. They had 8 of them. I don't think I've ever seen anybody that had 8 of them before. So basically, you're going down through their campaign page, seeing all the different features of their product, and many times, at the below a feature, they would have another buy button. So if that particular feature caught your interest, maybe you would click it. Maybe that's a good strategy. This next one is Bibliotheca, I think is the pronunciation of that. It brought in again about $1.5 million. This campaign was to make the Bible in new printing. So if you've looked in the Bible recently, there's all these numbers for verses and all that stuff in there, and links and information as opposed to just the book. So they took the Bible and they made 4 books out of it, the Old Testament, the New Testament, with very clean presentation without all those numbers. They modernized the language a little bit to current usage and try to make it like more accessible and user-friendly. So overall, I'd say it was a pretty vanilla campaign, but a lot of people, are interested in studying the Bible, and this makes it more of a friendly thing for them to do that. Again, they had post-campaign order button. They had $1 million stretch goal that they reached, and they had early bird pricing. I think really in their case, it was a lot of religious people were interested in getting Bibles that were more accessible and fair pricing for really top quality books created, shipped to you in hardback. With shipping everything, and it was $75 for the 4-book set. So it was a good value. Next we have The Laser Team. This is a movie, a feature-length movie that raised about $2.5 million. What's interesting here is it's the biggest Indiegogo campaign ever. And in case you're not paying full attention to our shows, in the last month or two we've seen an Indiegogo campaign with the most backers ever, a Kickstarter campaign with the most backers ever. Here we see an Indiegogo campaign that brought in the most dollars ever. There are just indications everywhere about the growth of crowdfunding. But back to Laser Team, they have a big history of making web content and video. They had a nice chart about where the money goes. As I mentioned earlier, people are interested in that. What's happening to all that money? So they show where it's going to go. They had a conference call early in their campaign, only accessible to people who had donated a certain amount. So there was obviously a drive to donate, I think it was $10 or $20, to reach the reward level that would enable you to participate in this conference call. And they had a lot of stretch goals. They had 9 stretch goals. They hit 7 of them with a very big campaign. Again, congratulations to Indiegogo, their biggest campaign so far, $2.5 million. Back to Kickstarter with a game, Zombicide. As you might guess from the name of the game, we're going to kill a lot of zombies with this game. But more importantly, the creators of the game brought in $2.8 million for this game. It's an established game company. They've done this before, so people are confident in their ability to deliver on what they're going to do. Some of the cool aspects of their campaign were that they didn't include shipping in the prices. Again, I'm not sure what to make of this because people sort of assume that if you're a U.S. resident that the shipping is part of it, but that was their strategy. They had the early bird pricing, which we've mentioned, 3 levels. Seems like we're getting carried away with that, but obviously it worked. They had 53 stretch goals. And if you haven't really followed some of these game campaigns, they do that a lot. There's like an outrageous amount of different stretch goals. That you hit different stretch goals, you get more figures, more cards, and different things. But they had a good strategy. As I said, this was an existing game company. They have history of this. So like as part of their campaign, you could buy the old games were listed as some of the options. So each time they, I guess, bring out a new game on Kickstarter, and I think that they've done like half a dozen campaigns or something. You have to look again. But so every time they do that, it offers exposure for all their old games as well. And my favorite campaign of July was about Reading Rainbow. Maybe you'll see behind me on my bookshelves. We're reading fanatics here at my house. Very big campaign. It was the 5th largest Kickstarter campaign ever. Brought in over $5 million. Partly due to the star power of LeVar Burton personally, from his time in Roots and Reading Rainbow and Star Trek The Next Generation. But also the star power of Reading Rainbow itself, which was a very highly regarded show on TV for over 20 years that basically taught kids to read. So this is a very exciting campaign a lot of people have nostalgia about because they or their kids, learned how to read from Reading Rainbow. Over 100,000 people stepped up to back this campaign. As I said, 5th biggest one on Kickstarter. And one thing that was neat that I hadn't heard of before, the other top Kickstarter campaigns, the other top 5, gave rewards that this campaign could give. And I don't remember offhand what they all were, but like Veronica Mars is one of the top campaigns. Maybe Veronica Mars DVDs were one of the rewards they gave for Reading Rainbow. Nice show of solidarity there. there were pictures of the rewards. And I really like this strategy because it makes it all tangible what the people are going to get. But again, it's a management thing. Your campaign has to be together and ready. You actually have to have ordered samples of your rewards to do that. So a good strategy if you're in a position to take that on and have that. Another thing they did that was a little different is they had 2 tiers of rewards shown. They had what they called Kickstarter rewards, and then they had limited rewards. They sort of just broke the 2 rewards in half in like a graphical presentation about things that like weren't limited in how many you could get and other things that were. They had a lot of rewards that were personal appearances, personal interactions with LeVar Burton, which were certainly popular. That, you know, you could go have a beer with him, or he would go to your school and make a talk or something. So different things that enable the Reading Rainbow campaign to raise so much money, and more kids are going to learn how to read. So kudos to Kickstarter, LeVar Burton, for a job well done. That's it for this month's crowdfunding coverage. Thanks for your time. We'll be back with results from what happened in August, which looks like it's shaping up to be a very exciting month in the crowdfunding space. So thanks for your time, and we'll see you next time.